Hello, I am Michael. I'm a podcaster. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an investor. I'm an improv artist and soon to be very, very bad stand-up comedian. I am also super neurotic, and that's something I say every time. But I'm also a TV host and your host for right now, what we call the Second Scene podcast. It is a Dweebs Global production, dweebsglobal.org. It's where you can go for free mentorship help, anything from resume writing to mental health. They have mentors around the world, every language, every country. It's completely confidential and it's completely free. That's why we do the podcast. That is dweebsglobal.org. And please hit the like and subscribe or any other button you have below you. I'm here today with Anthony and Staci Cascio. They are world-renowned tap dance teachers and performers, having taught and performed around the world with well-known groups such as Tap Dogs. After encountering career-jeopardizing health issues, they became authors. Their handbook, Food as a Prescription, has been seen on NBC, CBS, Fox, and a plethora of other outlets. So please welcome Anthony and Staci.
Hello.
Hello. How are you today?
I am good. Thank you for being here with me.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so I was telling you before that I have like a plethora of other outlets. I have a plethora of stomach problems. I have many sensitivities to foods that I am still trying to figure out to this day. So I am looking forward to getting into the nitty-gritty bits of that.
Sure. Obviously I'd want to know, like, how did you find out? What have you done for it? And do you have a favorite test that you've taken that's easy to help you maintain what's going on with your body? Because it wasn't until I found that my whole situation went to a whole nother level.
Oh, let's jump right into that. I know we'll come back around to figuring out who you guys are. I want to talk about your tap dancing and how you met, but you already got me going. So I know I took my memory of it and my knowledge of it's a little rough, but I took like an IgE food sensitivity test. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, that's
what
the
you
test
did.
you
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like almost we planned that answer, right? We took different tests than the normal test because we took a different avenue than people normally take when they find these things out. My avenue took me through my chiropractor, who's also a nutritionist. So I came from that angle, and the test I wound up with was a nutrition response test. And I love that test. There's no poking, there's no prodding. It's all about holding these vials that have like those little glass vials that have the thing in it, like a gluten, a form of gluten, a form of soy, a form of corn, and you hold the vial, and the doctor tests that vial against your energy and how well or how strong your body is or weak is when you hold that vial, and then he'll tell you when you have these things in your body's weaker. When you have these things in your body's stronger, and that's how you find out what supplements to take and what foods to eliminate to have this combination of a crazy awesome health experience.
So I'm very science oriented. So is there something definitive that he could see happen to you or test on you while you were holding this, or was it just energy always gets me kind of
it's a weakness.
It's a weakness.
So your body goes weak in response to pressure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he'll put pressure you want to match his pressure. So if you could match his pressure, your body is strong. But if you can't match his pressure, whatever you're holding is weakening your body.
Okay. Is there a name to this test?
Nutrition response testing.
Nutrition response testing. I'm gonna write that one down.
Nutrition response testing.
Oddly enough, I will tell you, this particular test tells me that I could consume wheat, just not the chemicals that they spray on our wheat in this country.
Is that a reason why I can go to Spain and eat whatever I want?
A lot of times, yes. They don't use those things in Europe.
That keeps coming up, and I don't like to make claims that I haven't personally experienced yet. Mm-hmm. But
when that test came back like that for me, I felt like it was sort of yes, you're kind of right.
Yeah, and boy, oh boy, do I keep hearing that story more and more often, and seeing people write that story and actually reading it from other human beings. Now, are they telling the truth? Are they not telling the truth? What would make them lie? What would, what's their experience? You can never confirm that, but when you see it, you kind of make a mental note.
When you have a personal experience, yeah.
I can tell you from my personal experience and my wife's personal experience, when we go there, they serve bread at every meal. We don't get bloated. We don't feel heavy and nasty. There's no, like, it is no doubt a huge difference than,
Mhm.
Yeah. They treat their food differently.
yeah. And their wine. I could drink wine there and feel fine too. There's something.
Yeah, we can't have wine. I can't have wine anymore. I can have other things though. I can have top shelf liquors as long as I don't go crazy. And I'm not telling everyone to go out and get drunk.
Right.
But it's also nice. People are like, well, that means I have to give up drinking. I'm like, no, you don't have to give up drinking. Just drink a little bit more moderately, or just pay attention to what you're doing. Know what you're putting in you. But anyway.
So how was that test? Did you have shots all lined up? And then he was
yeah, that's what you do. You go out with the doctor that day and you just take a shot of everything and you see how. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. But anyway, please go on with your questions.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm dying to look up that test. Have you gone through the IgE test? Do you know what those are? Have you?
I went through different tests when I was younger. They're poking my arm and all this other stuff, and I don't remember the names of them because they were a while ago.
Right.
I remember the thing that worked and actually I saw results with. Now, for Staci, she'll probably answer that question different than me.
I've had multiple allergy tests. The first one that really was something definitive like that for me was called an Eav screening. Now, you say you're science-based. It did involve a computer, but there was a metal node that I had in one hand, and they were tied to the computer, and there was another metal node, and she would touch different meridian points on your other hand for different foods, different environmental things. After we did that test, the computer spat out what macronutrients, how many macronutrients of each thing I should have per day, what vitamins I was deficient in, and the foods and other environmental factors that I was sensitive to. And it had a range of severe to moderate to not. And a friend of mine looked at my results. Thankfully, she's a data analyst, so it was very easy for her. And she said, well, it looks like you can have what your ancestors had. Right? So my ancestors are from Northern Europe. So I couldn't have a lot of tropical fruits and a lot of things that weren't native to where my ancestors are from. And that was kind of a light bulb moment. Since then, I've also had the nutrition response test, and I've had the skin testing, which I believe is the same as what you're talking about, the IgG, IgE. I think I have an IgA issue. The first test also told me that I have the MTHFR gene mutation, so I don't methylate my B12. So I have to take a methylated version of B12 in order for my body to be able to absorb it. So when your body absorbs nutrients and vitamins, it goes through a process. And in order to absorb B12, your body needs to go through a process called methylation. And I have a gene mutation that directs my body not to methylate. So I have to take the already methylated version of B12 in order for my body to absorb it, because it doesn't do the methylation process.
Got you. Do you get blood tests to check the vitamin levels before and after?
Not necessarily. Yeah. They check other levels, hormone levels and things. I have Hashimoto's, so we monitor that with blood tests, and I'm in my early 40s, so it's that time of lots of hormonal changes. So we monitor that as well. Yeah. So some stuff through blood, some through energy, some, it's kind of a compilation. I see a functional medicine doctor. I have had fairly bad experiences with Western medicine doctors over the course of my health.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, the stomach microbiome is still so it's so raw. People don't understand it at all. If you go to an allergy doctor, they taped food to my back one day, and like one thing came up as kind of maybe, but they'll tell you don't really have a food sensitivity. There's nothing wrong with you. It's your imagination.
Yeah, they will.
If they can't find an allergy. So I totally get that. It's constant exploration to figure out what works for you and what doesn't.
that goes along the lines of something that comes up a lot for us is you got to be an advocate for yourself and
Mhm.
kind of just, know what's working, what's not working, pay attention to your body and, do a little bit, go dig a little bit deeper and, just see what works for other people and then consider, hey, maybe I want to try that thing or maybe I want to try that thing.
I'm a research junkie.
Yeah.
So when this all first started for me, I dove into doing all the research I could possibly do. And this was about 10 to 12 years ago. So there wasn't a whole lot out there. There was a lot.
Mhm.
It's more now. So if you're into doing research and you want to really find out what's happening to you, I would suggest do the research.
Yeah, it's amazing how growing up, even like the focus wasn't always nutrition first, like because whatever you're putting into you is what you're going to be made up of, and that's but that was never instilled yeah. But we know, a lot of us know different now.
Well, we were taught
try
the
different
food
things.
pyramid, and
Yeah.
then they came out and said it's completely upside down.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So
like now like and it's true. I'm just thinking about like, wow, how fast it became like wow, 25 years. It took me 20 years to get an answer.
No, it's amazing that the little tweaks that make such the big differences. Like I thought about just moving to Europe because I'm like, I feel so much better there. Like I feel so much healthier. Just
what have you see? We definitely notice a difference in, not to ask this question, but and along the lines of this, we definitely notice a difference in the food when we leave densely populated areas than when we are living in densely populated areas. Every summer we go out and about driving around on a summer tap tour. We have one more left next year, right? But when we get into areas that have farming and stuff like that, or certain places in the country, I don't know, I feel like the food is better and the options you have is better. It seems like it costs more money to get the good products in the first place made, and then to travel them into the densely populated areas with the traffic and the time it takes and the, and all those extra costs and the tolls and stuff like that. It's like, we'll just put them in the air. So it's I've seen a vast difference in what products we can or can't get available in this country, in America, depending on where I am in America at the time.
Huh, interesting. I wonder if they put more preservatives or chemicals in them when they have to go into cities where they're being stored differently. I don't know what how that works, but
I've been doing this for at least 10 or so years, and I can tell you that the products have a cycle. They come out, they have no crazy things in them.
Oh.
They get really popular, and within a year or two, they have to start increasing their shelf life. So they have to start putting questionable items in them, or they have to take their standards down just a little bit because they need to mass produce it a little bit more, and they can't mass produce it with these particular ingredients, but they can produce it with these particular ingredients. Yeah, or it changes hands and the new owner isn't quite as careful or doesn't care as much because it doesn't affect them as it did the original owners. And then I've gone through so many products over the course where I'm like, oh my God, yes, boom, boom, boom. A year later, oh no, can't have that anymore. So
read everything.
It takes, and you have to stay consistent with reading, even on things that you
already use
like all the time.
The products you buy.
Because it does change. And watch, like a good key is like when they change their packaging. That's when I would take a look at it again. I mean, take a look at it anytime, but that's a huge indicator of, oh, they're growing. Maybe they're not as conscious about the ingredients that they put into it anymore.
I took out gluten and dairy when I started. I lost about 30 pounds, 35 pounds in a couple of months. And it was the first time that I was not internally bleeding every day of my life. Okay. I'm like, something changed drastically. So I was like, and that was Staci's idea. I was like, you're onto something. And then that's when my chiropractor, who's also my nutritionist, who wrote the forward in our handbook, Dr. Rob, shout out Dr. Rob. He said, let's give you this test. And I took the test and I traded tap dance lessons for the test. I gave him private tap, right? Okay. So there's the second seed. See, I'm paying attention. Yes, and I discovered that dairy, I could actually put dairy back in, which I just have a little bit of Italian cheeses. I don't go crazy, and I don't drink regular milk. But I had to avoid, I had to remove gluten, corn, and soy. And once I removed gluten, corn, and soy and minimized my dairy, then I really saw huge changes.
Gotcha.
And we should all check those things with our doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have these conversations with your doctor. Just because these conversations come up on podcasts, it doesn't mean that's the answer for one particular person. Or it may be the answer for someone, and the right thing to do is talk to your doctor about it, and they could determine and help you determine if that's true or not. Someone recently said to me, you're a tap dancer. You're not an expert in, you're making claims like a doctor. I said, I'm not trying to make claims like a doctor. I'm trying to tell people what happened to me so that if something similar is happening to them, maybe some light goes off in them that makes them say, oh, this, and then it changes the course of their life. So, unless we talk to each other and hear these stories, people that can't happen. So, this is a good thing. This is a really good thing. I just like to be clear.
Yeah, it's like I was saying before, the microbiome is such a new field, and we're all kind of experimenting on it together and trying to figure it out.
And that's that bacteria thing.
Yeah, we saw a crazy movie. I think it was on something Prime. I don't remember the name of it. Something like that, like a streaming. It's pretty much that one. And it was about how our gut is our first brain. Mm-hmm. Because if our gut wants to control things that we do, it'll send messages to our brain to change what happens in our body, to send us signals to meet the needs of our gut. Right? Mm-hmm. And when things started becoming, alive on the planet, the first thing that they were a system of, they were a gut. They were bacteria. Take the food in, put the food out. And then now that you have that part working, other parts built around it. So it's a really interesting thing, and it's very, important to talk about and to consider from that perspective, because it changes your whole perspective.
Yeah, no, I mean, they've really shown that people with chronic depression often have a lot of stomach problems. They're not always sure which one comes first, but they're definitely heavily related. And definitely when you eat, you can completely notice a change in your mood or your mind's fitness. It's on that topic, the very first experience I had with changing food to change my life was I was on a lot of prescription medicine at one point for depression, bipolar ADHD, whatever. Yeah, if that's even what it is, who knows? But I did the thing, and not that I'm not willing to accept that. It's just that we worry too much about labeling things and not enough on finding out what's causing it and fixing that instead of putting Band-Aids on things. So they had a Band-Aid on me. They had prescription medicine on me as a Band-Aid. Right. And then I took a couple of other natural methods or ways of managing that, because the medicine was harming me and hurting my career and making my heart. The side effects were really negatively affecting me, and I couldn't do it anymore. And one of the things I did was I took high fructose corn syrup out of my diet. And wow, first of all, what a change I noticed in me and I'm still like, Yahoo! Like even now I'm like all full energy, but man, I was fine. I was doing those manic and then depressed manic, right? But when I took the high fructose corn syrup out, that changed. So that was a very significant thing that I noticed with food, and just that one thing. And I also noticed how many things it's in. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I had this one thing today and then high fructose corn syrup was in it. It was every single thing I put in me today had high fructose corn syrup. So even cough medicine, like, why are you putting that in cough medicine? Why is that in a cough drop?
To make it palatable.
Yeah. So taking that out was a big difference. I agree with you. You made me think about that story when you mentioned that.
Oh yeah, it's wild. Once you start finding the things that affect you, how it can be very difficult to start the avoidance journey, because you really have to change a lot of what you do. But there's still a lot of options out there. I mean, once you do start that journey, there are plenty of options and other ways to eat that are just as enjoyable.
Absolutely.
Well, that's one of the first things that we tell people to do is, okay, you had your test and they tell you what you can't have, right? And then it's like, well, okay, what do I do with this? This is great, but now I know that I can't have these things. So it's like a negative thing in your brain. But if you flip it to the other side and you write down all of the things you can have,
Mm-hmm.
A, it becomes a positive thing. B, you have your grocery list at the store. And C, you can start to see a road that you could actually live this every day, all day.
Mindset matters. Mindset matters.
It does. I think most doctors that are now getting on board, the first thing they'll tell you to do is they'll tell you to do the elimination diet,
Yeah.
which I think is just such a hard thing to
So
ask
hard.
somebody to do. That's,
Yeah.
It's a mental exercise is really what it is.
but you're going from eating everything to eating nothing, and you're 99% of the people are going to fail. Like they can't.
If
do
they
it.
go into it with that mindset, I mean, but you know, I mean, not to sound like I'm plugging the book, but that was the whole idea behind the handbook, was because it was part of the idea. It's like, you know, why do you do something like this?
Mm-hmm.
One, because we saw a lot of people freaking out online during COVID in Facebook groups that, oh, I was just told I have to go this diet and I don't know what to do. What do I do? So the doctor tells you what to do, but they don't give you a
Steps to
roadmap,
make that happen.
right? So I was really lucky. My wife, Staci, went through the process years before me. So I basically had the handbook walking around with me and telling me how to do this. If a doctor tells you elimination diet, maybe you see another doctor.
Right. It's just it's so hard just to go you're going 100 miles an hour. You know, you're changing gears so drastically that I feel like there's an in-between step that could be better. Like you said, the nutrition response testing. It's not okay, you can only eat potatoes for a week. It's no, just cut these things out, not cut 90% of your diet out. Like,
yeah, and you're all alone. You feel like you're all alone. Hey, you have to go do these things. Okay, how the hell do I do it? You know? So yeah, it makes a difference when you have something guiding you or giving you insight so that you don't feel you're alone. And then you'll have a different mindset. That is your in between. What's in between being told not to do something and having to do it? The way, right?
Yes.
So there's your in between, is the way.
Yeah, when you're giving them realistic guidance and not an impossible.
Well, a way to find their own road.
Right.
It's not about following our road. It's about finding your own and following that path.
And the side effects are typically, you know, your skin gets better. You're not tired all the time.
Yeah.
Your joints don't ache. You know, those are the side effects. So, you know,
that's how I know I've cheated, is when my wife asks for a massage and I can't make it through more than 5 minutes. My hands just, I can't do it. Yeah.
Because it's not really cheating. You're doing yourself. It's not cheating anymore. It's doing yourself an injustice day.
There you go.
Setback.
It's a setback day. Right.
Right.
So like that's again, we talk about mindset with a lot of people. Listen, when you're a dancer or when you're an entertainer, you have to have a certain mindset. And that mindset is you will prevail against all odds. The show must go on. So when you bring that into the rest of your life and you approach other things in life from that point of view, it changes your experience. So that's one of the things that's really important, Michael. You got to have that, you know, that mindset. Anybody out there that's thinking about, you know, what are you going to do for yourself? You got to have that mindset. Yeah.
It's hard when
positive. You can do it.
I'm going to use Anthony as an example. As an Italian American, he was told he couldn't have gluten, tomatoes. Right.
It's your life.
But he could put dairy back in. So that was like a saving grace. However, the part about wrapping your mind around eliminating, quote unquote, certain foods or certain things from your diet or environment is, if you think about them like they're poison, you wouldn't put them in you or put them around you.
Right.
So that's what shifted for me personally, is I went, wow, if I have these things, I feel like this. I don't want to feel like this, so I'm not going to have those things.
I have to say, you say it's your life. Yes, it's a part of my life. It was my life. I don't want to replace things in my life that I already love. It's going to be hard for me to just go get lasagna. However, I came up with a new recipe for this. We make this awesome butternut squash soup, right? So I make lasagna with butternut squash soup, sage, gluten-free lasagna, gluten-free, soy-free, corn-free lasagna with ricotta cheese and sausage and sage and butternut squash soup. And it's freaking sick. And it's not making my mother's lasagna, but when I have that itch for lasagna and I make that, I'm satisfied. I'm happy. It scratches the itch, and I don't expect it to be my mother's lasagna, right?
Sounds
So
good to me.
yeah. So you want to find new things to love in life. My old life, when you say it's your life, didn't involve dill, but I didn't realize I like dill pickles, and she loves dill, and I started using dill as a seasoning, and I'm like, wow, I freaking love dill. So there's a whole new life out there. Like at 40 something years old, I got to, I had to change some things, but I got to add all this new stuff to my palate. It was and still is awesome. And here's the thing, I'm Italian. It's got to be delicious. So it's easy if you think that, listen, if you think that you can't do it, you're right. But if you think that you can do it, you're right. You know what I mean?
Got you.
I thought that I could do it, and we did it. Like, she had a whole different experience with food because she didn't have anyone loving food the way I love food and being in the diet with her. And then when we were in the same space, man, we just went to a whole nother level of food. We're working on opening up a bakery.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, because we've driven around the country and we found a couple of good ones, and the good ones that are dedicated are great, like dedicated to what they do. But, there's not enough out there. There's so many people like us and like yourself that, we just want delicious food.
So I'd love to go out to eat. How do you manage that? Like, I'd love to go out to eat.
It's so funny.
We have several ways to manage that.
Anybody who's dealing with this, the same questions keep coming up again and again and again and again, that we dedicated a chapter in the handbook to this exact thing.
Perfect.
We talk about, if you want to go out to eat, there's an app you can use called
eating outside of your house.
Eating outside of your home, right? So how to do it if you're going on a long vacation. If you want to go to a restaurant, we help you cultivate your list, or you can get your list of questions you need to ask them. Call at a time when they're not busy, so you're not, taking up someone's time when a lot of crazy things are going. Like, you got to be considerate of what you're going through as well. We made little business cards that have our food allergies on them. We call it a food card, #food card, right? And we carry these food cards around. So if we need to convey our allergies or sensitivities, anyone will just hand them the card right away, whether that's a server, or if we need to email it ahead to a family or friend that's having a party or a wedding. We carry a food bag, #food bag, everywhere we go, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just, can I go out to eat? It's, yes, you could go out to eat. And if you take these steps, you could do it very successfully. And even when something doesn't go according to plan, you have a contingency plan.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great idea. I'm going to go out and make myself a card immediately.
On our website, on the affiliates page, there's a link to see how we did the card. So if you want an example, there's something out there to look at.
Okay, what is the website? I'm going to ask you right now because I don't have it written down.
Foodasaprescription.com. Title of our book.
Yeah. It falls under the Local Foods Inc. umbrella. So, under that, we're going to have the first book, which is helping people with food allergy, food diets. And then the second book is coming up is the cookbook. All We Do Is Delicious. And then the baked goods from the cookbook and some other ancillary items are going to move into the bakery that we're looking to open in the next 2 or 3 years, because we got to transition down to Florida and finish the cookbook. But that's the end game, is get down there and have a bakery and take some of the things from there and, put them into the bakery.
Okay. What part of Florida are you moving into?
We're really liking from Palm Harbor down to Venice.
Okay.
That West Coast kind of area. We have a lot of friends down there. And I lived in California for a long time, Northern California. And I loved it there, and I love the weather. And I grew up in New York, and I love everything New York has given me and taught me. But leaving New York to be on tour and exploring the world and then living in somewhere else, I just really enjoyed that. And, it's time to go be somewhere else again. And I want to be where there's sunshine and people I know.
I understand. So, I lived in New York City for 12 years myself, and needed more trees and
yeah. I like that. I don't need to run a rat race anymore. I don't want to pay a bridge for a toll to go visit my friends. I get it. Fine. You want to live in this. It's great here, but I got to experience here. I want to go experience other things too. What about you? Where are you from?
Where am I from?
Yeah.
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
I lived in Chicago for 14 years. I also toured for 4 years. So I only have one state left.
Where did you two meet?
Online in a dance group that's now defunct, called Dance Teachers Network.
Okay.
Dance Teachers Network. Yeah. That's how we met. And then we met in person a couple of months later in Wisconsin, in dancing, because we're both teachers, the whole thing. And then we stayed in touch. She moved to New York, and then at some point we became co-inhabitors, and then made it official.
That works. That works.
Yeah.
So your first scene, you're teachers and dancers. So you travel around. You're traveling around. Is that performances or for teaching or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We do it all. Like, I got to be one of like the best. I'm famous in my circle. It's really cool. I'm internationally famous in my circle. It's kind of awesome. So I get to teach, I get to perform, I get to produce, which has turned out to be one of my favorite things to do. I get to direct, I get to discover new talent, curate talent. The whole thing. Nonprofit organization for tap dance, expose people to tap dancing. I typically wouldn't get to do it. Staci, my favorite thing that I like to tell her, when she was part of Sesame Street Live. So she got to be part of kind of every kid's life and part of the thing that is part of every kid's life. So she had a little bit of different experience, but we get to run the gamut.
That's cool.
No comments about Sesame
You
Street?
said it.
Yeah.
You got to tell everyone what it's like to meet Big Bird, and if Snuffleupagus was really an imaginary.
Snuffy's awesome, and so is Big Bird. Big Bird is fantastic. I love Big Bird.
So you've been able to keep dancing, and I guess that must have been really hard when you were first going through stomach issues and
joint, so a lot of mine came out as joint inflammation. So there was a point where I was really considering not doing it anymore, not teaching, not choreographing, not performing, none of it, because it just hurt too much. And I was like, you know what? I had a quote unquote day job, right? And I was, this pays the bills, so maybe I'll just do that for the rest of my life. And one of my theater buddies knew the woman who did the Eav screening, and she said, this is who you should go see. And that's sort of what changed it for me, and why I stuck around in the field, was because of that. Okay.
I think often people have, they get the joint pain and they're diagnosed with
arthritis
or I'm forgetting the other ones right now. And I'm sure 80% of the time that's not what it is. It's
even when it is what it is, if you take out things that are inflammatory, it will help that thing.
Right.
Sometimes more than a prescription drug or something that's a Band-Aid, because that's fighting, it's fighting against what's really going on. But when you get it at the root, it helps so much, and you don't have the same side effects. The side effects of the food, again, are less inflammation. The side effects of a prescription drug could be, tired, weight loss, death, coma, loss of face, whatever they come up with next.
Well, this has been great. I really appreciate this. So I've learned a lot. I am going to look up the nutrition response testing immediately and see where I can find it.
Yeah.
And then everyone out there, foodasaprescription.com. That's the name of the book. That's the website. Please check it out. We will post links to it underneath the videos, underneath the podcasts. And thank you again for being here today.
Yeah, no
thank
worries.
you for having us.
Yeah, and for doing this so that people could hear these conversations and connect and discover things about themselves. Thank you.
And no doubt, I'm sure we've helped up someone today. Somebody had to have related to what we were talking about. So
absolutely,
no doubt. So, and again, everyone out there, this has been a Dweebs Global production. That's dweebsglobal.org. That's why we do the podcast. They get free mentorship help, anything from resume writing to mental health, and it's confidential, completely free. Free. So hit like, hit subscribe. We'll see you guys next week.